Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another great episode of The Spread. I'm your host, Jim Sella, hanging out with J-Dash via satellite. The Pittsburgh Steelers, another letdown loss in the Tomlin era, 21-9 or something like that, or I don't know, something even worse against teams that were sub 500 at the time of play. They really need to step it up. That's just inexcusable, however the hell you say it.
Yeah, I mean, moving forward, man, it's going to be tough because you don't get any easier than at Miami on the road. We've seen them go out and beat the Washington Redskins in week 1 on the road, but that was a primetime game. They play a lot differently in primetime. So far, in the other 2 road games, man, they looked pitiful. Yeah,
Roethlisberger hurts his knee. That's the biggest story coming out of the game. He's not going to be there for the New England game. Torn meniscus, or I don't know. They cleaned it up, whatever the actual report was. I talked to Brandon, our athletic trainer. He said for a normal person, that's about a 4 to 6 week injury. But being that it's an NFL football player, they'll probably bring him back in 3. So you can expect this. I don't want to say expect, but you can probably see him back at Baltimore or the week after.
Yeah, at least we got our bye coming up. But without Ben, I mean, I'm a little bit worried, man. I do not trust Landry Jones at all.
Only a little bit worried?
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, if it's only 3 weeks that he misses, one of those being a bye week, I mean, go 0-2, what? You'll be 4-4 by then, so you still have a shot if Big Ben can come back healthy from there. But, I mean, even from the start of the game, man, Miami looked in control. I know at the end of when Big Ben came out of the game, they were saying the Steelers were in control of the game, and I just didn't see it, man. Miami looked to be in control the entire time. I know Big Ben did start to get it going a little bit there before he got injured. But when he came out of the game, dude, it was just garbage from there on out.
Yeah, Landry Jones looked afraid on that 3rd and 1 pass. He seriously looked like he was scared of the rush and just kind of threw the ball away so he didn't get creamed. Giant pansy.
Yeah, and I mean, even when Big Ben came back in the game, which now I have problems with, because if he wasn't healthy enough to play this week, he definitely wasn't healthy enough to come back in that game. I guess they thought they still had a shot to win the game. He came back in, man. He was throwing the ball 20 feet high over his receivers. He just didn't want to be in the game. He was hurting, man.
Yeah, you could see it. He couldn't put any weight on that leg, or even if he was shot up so full cortisone he couldn't even feel it. He was all over the place. Did he even end up throwing for 200 yards? I don't think.
No, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, it just, when he's injured, I'm not even hating on the guy because I'm not saying I could play injured or anything, but he's off. You know, Roethlisberger's the kind of guy that needs to be healthy to be able to play well. He's got a lot of weight to put on that plant foot, and when you can't plant and drive the football like he does, then you're going to have a hard time being an effective quarterback. And I don't know. I kind of agree with you that maybe they shouldn't have put him back in, but I think they've seen an opportunity to really grab a hold of the division lead. Baltimore struggling. Cincinnati's already lost 4 games this year, and they thought they could catch some lightning in a bottle. They weren't able to do it, and now we're sitting here at 4-2?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really helped him out. Again, Le'Veon Bell is the go-to guy in this game. 53 yards rushing on 10 carries, 6 catches.
Against a horrible Miami defense.
Yeah, 6 catches, 55 yards, so he had over 100 yards. But look at that, man, 10 carries. The team as a whole had 16 carries, 128 yards. Of course, one of those was the reverse to Hayward Bay, which went for the touchdown for 60 yards. But I mean, they were running against this team. I know they fell behind and felt like they had to try to pass a little bit more. But when Big Ben got hurt, I think he had, 9 pass attempts or something? Do you remember that? Or was it halftime when he had 9 pass attempts? He ended up with 34 in this game. So they pretty much turned to the pass. I know they were behind, but I still feel like they should have stuck with the run.
And what happened to the Steelers' run defense? We were number 4, I believe it was, coming into this football game, and let Jay Ajayi run for 204 yards.
2 touchdowns.
The most since Fred Taylor back in the early 2000s, I think it was, or late 90s. Unacceptable performance from our defense. You have Lawrence Timmons puking all over everybody in the end zone.
That was the funniest thing.
Cam Hayward not playing really exposed that Steelers run defense, and he's not going to be there again this week against New England. I think we're going to get a healthy dose of LeGarrette Blount and James White coming out of the backfield, and I think this could be a matchup problem for Pittsburgh going into next week.
With the injury to Ryan Shazier, Vince Williams came in and stepped up huge. And in this game, he actually got injured as well. Mike Mitchell got injured in this game. I think Golden was in for a little bit and got injured, correct?
Correct.
The injuries are just stacking up, and it was a little bit too much. And, of course, when Big Ben goes down, that's it. That's the end of it right there. But I think the injuries are just starting to stack up and be too much for him at this point. Harry and Foster came back healthy for the first time since week 1. He really was pretty much a non-factor. They really didn't try to get him involved, and why would you? I mean, Ajayi was straight dominant all game. I know he didn't have that long run until late in the game, but he was still over 100 yards by that point, and they just couldn't stop the run at all. And we say it every week. Well, I guess not every week, but we say it all the time, that if you can't stop the run, you're just going to lose, and that's the way it goes.
Now, you were talking about the injuries. I don't like to use injuries as an excuse for losing, but when does it become a reason and not an excuse anymore? The Steelers are just getting crushed with injuries to their main guys.
I mean, it's definitely a part of the reason, man. You can't just say if everybody was healthy, it would have turned out the same way. But, I mean, there's definitely something going on here where they can't play on the road as well. And I put that on Mike Tomlin, man. I know we don't like Todd Haley around here, and we want to see more consistency out of the offense home to road. But Mike Tomlin just doesn't have his team ready when they go on the road. I mean, they got blown out against Philadelphia, and we said, okay, that's just 1 week. You come back, you win the next week at home. Well, you went on the road again, man. And, I mean, to me, this was never even a game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Outside of that first Steelers touchdown where they went for 2 and got it, that drive was the only time that the Steelers looked like the dominant team in that football game. They just constantly kept running Ajayi right at where Cam Hayward should be, and you kept expecting him to get stopped. You'd see the play develop. You'd see him come out of the backfield, start going that way, and I'd be like, all right, we're going to scoop him up. And he runs 15 yards down the freaking field. It was just over and over again. On third down, the defense was terrible. The offense was terrible.
I mean, the special teams stepped up a little bit. They had the block field goal, man, but really, Miami left some points out there, obviously, with that block field goal. And you remember Ryan Tannehill had that touchdown pass that got called back, and they ended up going for 3 there. So they could have ended up scoring 40 points in this game.
The one bright spot I'll give the Steelers defense, they did tighten up when they got into the red zone. It could have been a lot of points.
That's what I'm saying. It could have been a lot worse, man. I mean, yeah.
The Dolphins held the ball for over 30-something minutes. I think Pittsburgh only had the ball for about 23 minutes in that game. So that defense was getting exposed.
Yeah, I tell you who's a beast, man. We said it before. It's Jarvis Landry. This guy is a monster. I would love to have him as a Pittsburgh Steeler on the other side of Antonio Brown. I think that would be beast for Big Ben.
Where's Antonio Brown's fantasy value for this week?
Oh, I mean, we've seen it last year with Vic and Landry, man. It's hard for Antonio Brown to do too much unless you throw him a short pass and he's able to break one to the zone. It sucks, but, I mean, he is a guy that you have to start no matter who's in a quarterback. But outside of him and Le'Veon Bell, I'm not starting anyone in fantasy on Pittsburgh anymore, man. I know Sammy Coates was a guy that had a huge week prior to this Miami game. Who was it against the New York Jets?
Yeah.
Coming into this week, I mean, I thought they tried to get him a ball a couple times. He really wasn't playing too much either. We've seen Darius Hayward-Bay out there more often than not, and it was nice to see Eli Rogers come back after missing a couple games as well. But Sammy Coates, I mean, that hand injury must be messing with him right now.
Yeah, it's right in the webbing of his hand. He has at least 7 stitches, maybe up to 14.
I thought they said 17.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a lot of stitches in a small area, so I'm sure it hurts to catch the football. He was wearing that extra padded glove. I mean, this guy's got butter hands to begin with, so you can't really expect him to go out there with a giant gash in his hand. I'm sure this week, coming into the New England game, his hand will feel better. Now, whether or not Landry will be able to get him the football is a total other question.
I tell you what I did like, though, is Kobe Hamilton, man, come up with a couple plays.
Yeah?
Nice to see. I tell you what, though, man, we came in, we did this preview for this game, and we were saying this could be a letdown game form if they were looking ahead to New England, and it kind of does. It looks like they were looking ahead to New England, was overlooking Miami. So it hurts that Big Ben goes down in this game as well, and now since you were looking ahead to New England, you're going to be playing that game with Landry Jones, so you sort of screwed yourself there. And I don't expect Pittsburgh to stay in this New England game this week, even though it is at home. I just don't trust it.
Did Baltimore win last week?
Baltimore, I believe they lost 27-23.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Baltimore lost, Cleveland lost, and Cincinnati lost.
So one of the biggest problems coming out of this Miami game for Pittsburgh is they really had a chance to grab a hold of the division lead. Cincinnati lost, Baltimore lost. Nobody cares about Cleveland, but they lost. We could have gone up big on Cincinnati. They're sitting at 2-4. Baltimore's sitting at 3-3, I believe, and we're sitting at 4-2. So it would have been nice to get to 5-1 and then have a shot at a number one seed by beating New England next week. But like you said, it's going to be tough. If Pittsburgh wins this football game, it's going to be because we ran the ball. We won time of possession, and our defense has to just straight show up. And I'm not sure with all the injuries that can happen.
Yeah, I don't think the defense is going to be able to stop Brady. And offensively, man, I think New England's good enough to at least not completely stop Le'Veon Bell, but shut him down a little bit. And it's going to be hard. I mean, I think they're going to make Landry beat him, and I know how that's going to turn out.
So is there a player of the game from this game for you?
Offensively, I guess Darius Hayward-Bay, man. He had to step in and play a little bit bigger of a role, and he came up and had the big play at least, you know?
Yeah, I mean, outside of him, or I was just going to give it to Al Villanueva just because I like him, and I don't think Ben got any sacks from the blind side.
I mean, Le'Veon looked good in limited touches. They only got him the ball 16 times in this game.
Defensively, I'm going to give it to Lawrence Timmons for trying to get an edge on the other team by puking in the end zone and hoping they slip on it the next time they were down there. That was a smart play. I liked it. Maybe he'll puke all over the ball and it'll slip out of Brady's hands.
Well, I tell you what, Tyler Matakevich led the team in tackles.
Big Red. He came in for Vince Williams.
There you go. I mean, yeah.
He's a guy that can play well, but I'm scared if he has to start because he's like our third string linebacker.
Well, I mean, he is. That's
brutal.
What it breaks down to, man. That's where we are. I mean, it's still early in the season, too. So maybe Big Ben has something going there where he's saying they're a little bit too much hitting in practice.
Maybe.
Or it could be the other way around, man. Maybe they got to hit more. Maybe they got to work harder in practice and they won't come out and have all these injuries. I don't know. I'm not there at practice, so I'll go with what Big Ben says, but that's not always the answer. It could be the other way around as well. I mean, if you're not doing much at practice and you go out there and try to go 100% in the game, you're going to hurt yourself as well.
And you're not going to be able to tackle because the Steelers' defense hasn't been able to tackle in their losses this season. It's been bad. Both these two losses, we just completely blew it as far as tackling anybody. I mean, anybody at all.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that by 204 yards rushing from Ajayi, 222 from the team in total, 3 touchdowns. So, yeah, nothing good came out of this game to me, really.
Yeah, it's brutal. Anything else? It's a miserable episode.
Nah, we'll make it a short episode. Screw it. Offensively, I tell you what, Ryan Tannehill, he looked pretty good to me.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Dolphins credit. I was down on them coming into this game. It seems like they're getting their 2 offensive linemen back from injury really helped them out. Obviously, in the run game, Tannehill looked a little better. The Steelers haven't really got pressure on too many quarterbacks this season, but he looked better than he has. Maybe the Dolphins can get a little momentum going and squeak into a wild card spot in the playoffs, but nobody's stopping New England in that division. But I'm not going to come out here and just say Pittsburgh lost this game. I think Miami beat Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, they definitely look like the better team for sure, but I just can't take it, man. This Pittsburgh team looks like the best team when they're in Pittsburgh, and really they look like the Cleveland Browns when they're away from Pittsburgh.
Which is another reason why home field advantage throughout would be huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking
AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh or on the road. Which one are you taking?
Oh, yeah, obviously. But, I mean, right now, if they have to go on the road in the playoffs, I give them no chance, man.
Unless it's Cincinnati. We can win there. Or Baltimore.
I guess
the only 2 places where I would give them a shot.
But that's it, man.
That's all we got.
Yeah, wrap it
Fans,
up.
questions, comments, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube. Keep clicking subscribe. Look ahead for our Steelers-Patriots preview. It's going to be a scary game, but I have a little bit of faith.
In Landry.